Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really profound ancient biblical text, but we're going to do it through the lens of an incredibly powerful modern metaphor. We're looking at how to actually navigate truly chaotic times. So let's just dive right in because honestly, the lessons hidden in this historical record are remarkably relevant for us right now. We're going to explore what it really means to hold onto your compass when the entire world is literally shaking around you. To set the stage here, our source material kicks off with this absolutely captivating story about an old, vintage marine compass. Picture this. About a century ago, in a small European city, there was this compass factory that miraculously survived 2 world wars. Even then the whole city was swept up in conflict, and even when the nation's currency became virtually worthless overnight, literally reduced to scrap paper, this factory inexplicably held its ground. And inside there was this old craftsman. He sat at the exact same workbench, at the exact same time every single day. He spent his entire life doing just one thing, meticulously checking to make sure the compass needles pointed to true north. Now, the profound wisdom of this old craftsman, that is what anchors our whole story today. One day, a young employee who was just watching all the chaos of the world outside turned to him and asked, "Sir, the world is spinning out of control. What meaning does this one tiny needle even has?" The old craftsman quietly answered, "The more the world shakes, the direction this needle points doesn't change." He explained that back in the age of exploration, when a ship is hopelessly lost in a violent storm, it is precisely this unchanging needle that saves the crew. You see, that's the ultimate purpose of a compass. It doesn't flinch when the waves crash. So from that 20th century European factory, the source seamlessly jumps back thousands of years. We're moving from a shaking modern Europe to the shaking, chaotic Middle East of ancient Judah, specifically the biblical text of 2 Kings chapter 24. We are going to look at what happens when an entire nation completely loses its true north. Part 1. The upheaval of 2 Kings 24, a chaotic historical era. Listen, it's absolutely crucial to understand the headspace of the author who wrote this historical record. They weren't living in a golden age. They never met King David. They never saw the prophet Elijah. But our source notes they very likely did meet the righteous King Josiah. What this means is that the author lived through incredibly dark times. They personally witnessed the tragic decline of the kingdom, the evil actions of the kings that followed, and ultimately the devastating fall of Jerusalem and the destruction of the temple. They're literally writing this from the ashes of a collapsed era. And talk about a geopolitical nightmare. The kingdom of Judah was caught in an impossible situation, both geographically and politically. Down to their south, you had the fading ancient power of Egypt. Up to their north, the aggressively rising empire of Babylon. Judah was this tiny nation sandwiched directly between them. Every single day was a struggle just to survive. They were caught right in the crossfire of a massive global power shift. Part 2. Jehoiakim's Tightrope, a dangerous balancing act. Enter King Jehoiakim, the guy who had to walk this exact geopolitical tightrope. Now, he was the son of the great King Josiah, but Josiah had been tragically killed in battle at Megiddo while fighting the Egyptian pharaoh Necho. After Josiah's death, it was actually the victorious Egyptian pharaoh who placed Jehoiakim on the throne. So from day one, his entire reign was defined by foreign influence and heavy political compromise. So how in the world did Jehoiakim try to survive this? Well, his strategy was basically a masterclass in calculated political flip-flopping. Phase 1. He starts off as a pro-Egypt puppet king, which makes sense because Egypt installed him. But then, Phase 2, this history-altering battle happens at Carchemish. Babylon crushes Egypt and seizes regional control. Seeing this, Jehoiakim immediately pivots. Phase 3, he switches sides and submits to Babylon for 3 years. But wait, as soon as Babylon's power seems to wobble even just a little bit, Phase 4, he rebels against Babylon and tries to rejoin Egypt. He is constantly shifting allegiances back and forth, just trying to guess who the strongest player is on any given day. Part 3, the tragic result, the consequences of revolt. Spoiler alert, this strategy of pure calculation resulted in sheer tragedy. The source text makes it abundantly clear that Jehoiakim's method of relying on worldly powers and calculated alliances was fundamentally incompatible with his role as the leader of God's people. He was playing worldly geopolitics instead of relying on divine guidance. And the consequences of his rebellion against Babylon? Immediate, swift, and utterly devastating for his entire nation. Just look at the sheer scale of the forces sent against Judah. It wasn't just Babylon. It was this massive, multi-front coalition. You had Chaldean armies, Aramaean troops, Moabite raiders, and Ammonite forces all descending upon Judah simultaneously from every single direction. To anyone watching, this looked exactly like standard geopolitical history, right? You betray a dominant superpower, and that superpower sends its military, along with its vassal states, to totally crush you in retaliation. It looked like pure, brutal human politics.
Part 4, the God who rules history, divine sovereignty. But right here is where the source reveals its core theological thesis and flips that worldly perspective totally upside down. This overwhelming invasion, it wasn't just bad geopolitical luck. It wasn't just a miscalculated foreign policy. The ancient text pulls back the curtain to show us the God who rules history. There's a direction to history, and there is someone holding the compass.
Actually, the text pulls no punches. 2 Kings 24 verse 2 states clearly, "As the Lord spoke through his prophets to destroy Judah." And the text goes on in verse 4 to explain why. It was because of the innocent blood that had been shed in the land which filled Jerusalem. Our source analysis explains that these historical events, the movement of empires, the marching of massive foreign armies, were ultimately guided by divine sovereignty. It wasn't just Babylon punishing a rebellious vassal. It was a divine consequence for severe moral and spiritual failure. Human calculation versus the unchanging true north. This is the powerful contrast at the heart of it all. The narrative is directly comparing King Jehoiakim's disastrous, calculation-based politics with the steadfastness of that old compass needle we talked about at the very beginning. Jehoiakim was looking at the waves, Egypt, Babylon, military strength, and constantly adjusting his course based on fear and shifting power dynamics. But a compass doesn't care about the storm. It only cares about true north. And honestly, this brings the whole ancient text right to our doorstep today. The source warns us against relying on what it calls modern false navigators. When we face difficult decisions about our health, our families, or our careers, what are we looking at? We often look at bank account balances, social reputation, powerful human backing, or cold corporate calculations. We try to read the room, read the market, and align ourselves with whatever seems strongest at the moment, just like King Jehoiakim did. But you know what? These are unstable, shifting factors. They are the crashing waves, not the true north. So, I want to leave you with this one final, vital question to chew on. When your world shakes, when the unexpected health crisis hits, the economy shifts, or your career is suddenly on the line, are you busy calculating the odds like King Jehoiakim? Or are you ignoring the chaos around you and pointing faithfully toward your true north? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Catch you next time.